Hi, I'm Malcolm Stern, and in conjunction with my friends John and Sandra Wilson from Online Events, we're creating a series of podcasts called Slay Your Dragons with Compassion. My book of the same name was conceived and inspired by the suicide of my daughter Melissa and the journey that took me on and the internal resources that I found. All of my guests will have a story to tell around overcoming and ultimately thriving through adversity. Special thanks to the band Stairway, Jim McCarty and Louis Chinamo, for the use of theme music from their album Medicine Dance, and my engineer Owen Santiago. I hope you enjoy this series, and thanks for listening. Welcome to my podcast, Slay Your Dragons with Compassion, which I'm doing in conjunction with my friends at Online Events. And what we're looking at here are ways in which people have come through adversity to be who they are. And most of my guests, well, all of my guests will have a story to tell and will have their own particular genius at coming through their own situations that have arisen.
I like that word, genius.
I thought you would, Neil, yes. So Neil is a bit of a genius and he's a brilliant filmmaker. And we'll come to that in a little bit later. But I'd like to start with looking at your birth condition. And so when you were born, you had a bone missing in your neck, I think.
I was born with a condition called Klippel-Feil Syndrome, which is quite rare. I think I've only met one other person in my life with the same thing. So yes, there's a bone missing in my neck. My spine, my hips are tilted forwards. My spine comes out like that, so it curves forwards. So if you look at me on the side, I'm kind of leaning forward and my head's at the top. There is very little flexibility in my spine. I would have been 7 or 8 inches taller than I am, but that's what I've lost in height because of my condition. Yeah, I've had a few issues with it, but most of the issues I have with my condition are people's attitudes and not the physical difficulties.
I think what I've always observed about you is that you carry yourself as someone who has great self-respect. So you carry yourself as though you have an ease with who you are. And I think that says something about what you'll have come through with having to manage your condition.
But that's your yeah, and that's great. That
It's my
is your
perception.
perception. That's your perception, Malcolm. You see, I don't see myself as disabled. I look out my eyes and I don't see disabled. So I'm just some bloke called Neil who gets on and does what he does. And sometimes I have a little bit of a backache and sometimes things a little bit. But it's like, so, you say I hold myself with, at ease and all that. It's like, well, I'm just me.
Yeah.
In me, it's not a big deal. Other people, I think it is. And people say to me many times, oh, Neil, you're so inspirational and da 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 da. Am I allowed to swear on this, by the way, Malcolm?
Minimally, but I think that's okay for a bit.
Well,
Yes.
I won't, but my thought, if someone comes up to me and says, oh, Neil, you're so inspirational. You did up your shoelaces. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, no, I just get on and do my stuff. That's me.
I think that's the thing, and I think that I don't. I'm not looking at this just in relation to your physical condition
Yeah.
either. I'm looking at this in who you are. Who
Yeah.
you are feels like you come out fighting. Um,
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, no, so you're right there because I didn't realize there was anything wrong with me at all when I was little because when you're surrounded by the love of your family and stuff like that, and I was brought up in a very close, loving family. I was very lucky there. But it wasn't until I went to school and other kids kind of started pointing out in the wonderful way that children do that I'm different from them that I realized there was a difference. And I had a decision to make at that point. I was either going to fold under the pressure or push back. And my thing was, do you know what? They might be laughing at me, but they're not going to anymore. I'm going to create a clown and I'm going to be a joker and a clown. They can laugh at that instead. So, I started doing that. And also, I was in and out of Great Ormond Street a lot as an outpatient because there was a possibility as I grew, I could paralyze myself just by growing because of the condition. So they kept a close eye on me, and I remember a doctor saying to my mum at some point, don't expect much from Neil. He won't be able to do much, you know. And my
Wow.
reaction was, what the do you know? I'm going to show you. And it was from that point on, I thought, nobody's going to tell me what I can or cannot do. This is my body, completely and utterly up to me what I do. So no one's going to say, no, I can't. And actually, if they say, no, I can't, I'm going to be more determined to prove that I can do it. So yeah, there is that steely
Well,
determination.
I love that attitude though, because that's very much the essence of what I'm looking at in this whole concept of slay your dragons with compassion. That
Hmm.
actually we have to come through something in order to go, I'm going to be the best person I can possibly be, despite the difficulties that I may have gone through.
I'm not sure whether I'd use the phrase the best person I possibly can be, but I'm going to do what the hell I want to do, and no one's going to stop me doing it. Whether that's best, I don't know, but certainly no one's going to stop me doing what I want to do.
And you have sort of found yourself in a career as quite an accomplished filmmaker. And how did that happen?
Well, found again, it's interesting. When I was 11, my parents got me tickets to see Crackerjack being recorded at the BBC, and Slade were doing a double header, and they were my favourite band at the time. And that was the day I decided I was going to work in television, making programs for the BBC. I was at 11, and of course, go back to school and I tell the teachers, as I said, oh no, Neil, TV's too difficult. Do computers, do maths, get a computer science degree. And of course, I'm thinking, no, I'm going to work in telly. But I did what I was told, and I ended up with a computer science degree. But I still wanted to make telly, and I satisfied my creative desires by doing children's theatre. I was a children's magician. I volunteered at Great Ormond Street Hospital Radio. And one of the girls that worked at the radio station also worked for the BBC. And she would bring Ariel in, which is the internal magazine. And there are ads at the back of the magazine. And one week there was an ad in their IT department, which I was perfectly qualified for. So I applied for it and got an interview. And in the interview, they said, why do you want to work for the BBC? And I said, because I want to make TV programs. I got the job, and I spent the next 2.5 years doing two jobs, the one I was being paid for, and the other one that was sitting in studios, sitting in galleries, following producers. I wrote the opening to one of Blue Peter's shows. I wrote one of their Christmas pantos, and started doing little bits of sketch writing for Dick and Dom, who were quite young and green then. And applying for attachments, which is like when department can loan you from one department to another in children's or schools TV. And in the end, after about 2.5, 3 years of doing that, BBC Schools TV were looking for somebody with a maths background, and half my degree was maths. And I got loaned from the IT department, and I never went back. And that was in December 1989. So you do the maths.
Well, you've got a maths degree. I haven't.
Oh,
So, but
32 years ago.
it's really interesting because it's like it feels like sometimes we look like we're going sideways to get what we want, but actually you managed to equip yourself with some skills that have really served you in getting to where you wanted to be.
I think you need to be in action. You need to be doing stuff. You need to be. They say lucky people create their own luck. You know, I put a lot of effort in. I applied for maybe a dozen opportunities once I was in the BBC, and I didn't take no for an answer. And I'd always get round to the second round of interviews, and they would always say, "Well, Neil, you don't have any experience." And my argument was, "Well, how can I get experience if I don't have a chance?" So you just have to create your own experience and your own luck and your own opportunities. And like I said, that thing that happened when I was little, when someone said no to me, and for me, that's the trigger to make me even more determined, was what kept me going.
Mm. There is that sort of that fighter in you that's that will not take no for an answer, and
There's certainly, yeah, there's still a little bit in it, but he's tired now. The fighter is more chilled than he used to be.
so your career has taken off, and you've actually made some. I think you've made award-winning films, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I worked in BBC schools for 7 years on programs like Words and Pictures, Number Town, Mega Maths. I had a BAFTA nomination, a couple of Royal Television Society awards, some educational awards and stuff like that. And I went freelance as a director in the late 90s, directing everything from Teletubbies to poker programs, DIY shows, and anything and stuff like that. So yeah, and then set up my own production company making kids animations and videos that you could pick up on the till at Woolworths, things like that, those kind of things.
Great. And in your personal life, you've been married and you have children.
I do.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Are you happy to talk about
I'm divorced now. I was divorced 12 years ago, so quite a while ago. Even longer, 12, 13 years. I've got a 19-year-old daughter now and a 21-year-old son. Both great kids. I brought them up on my own from the age of 5 and 7. My ex-wife had a bit of a breakdown, couldn't cope, and I was left looking after the kids. So I had to kind of fold up my director chair just after I'd been nominated for the BAFTA, and step away from the industry for a few years while I brought them up. So Ollie is living with his girlfriend. He's happy and healthy and doing well. And Amy, she's with me at the moment, but she's moving out in the new year to her own place with a boyfriend. And they're solid, calm, polite, happy, healthy children. And I'm very proud of them. I think I've done a pretty good job.
I think that's pretty amazing as a single father to be bringing up your kids and to also to let go of your career, which you'd fought like hell to get hold of, and you'd really
Well,
worked
yes,
for.
I did. I mean, I didn't stop directing or writing, but what I did, I kind of pivoted. So I started working in business films and training films, and that's where we work because I made some films for you and stuff like that.
Good.
So I
Yeah.
would use my broadcast skills to help business owners and trainers and stuff communicate and get their message out there for a while, and also made training films for organizations like the Samaritans and sales training organizations, a bit like John Cleese used to do, using comedy sketches to make points and stuff like that. So I could shoot that in the day when the kids are at school and edit in the evening, but I didn't have the you have to be in the edit suite until 8 at night, which is what broadcasting used to be
Yeah.
always. Yeah.
And what's your direction now? How what's your are you can talk about your age? How old are you now?
I'm 61.
Okay.
I know I don't look it, 61. I'm available, by the way, just so you know.
Yeah.
But I
That's
thought I'd drop that one out there. About 6 months after COVID, I made the decision, because my kids were then teenagers and old enough, that I was going to work my way back into broadcasting. I wanted to get back into telly, and the focus was on adult comedy drama. That was like in 2021. At the end of 2021, I got on a Directors UK mentoring scheme. So that was for the whole of 2022. I was mentored by Ed By, director of Red Dwarf, Vicar of Dibley, French and Saunders. He is, or what he still is, UK's best sitcom comedy director in the UK. And he was my mentor for a year. And we would meet once or twice a month. And I spent 4 weeks as his second unit director on Murder They Hope with Johnny Vegas, essentially directing anything he couldn't be bothered to direct, and learned so much from him. And the biggest thing I learned was I can actually do it and I don't need to worry. He just said, Neil, you just get comedy, you know it, you can do this. And I also started working on my writing a lot more, writing comedy drama and adult comedy drama. And for me, and I'm very active in this area, there is disabled representation is terrible, both sides of the camera in the broadcast industry. 25% of UK population have some form of disability. 20% of the UK working population have a disability, but 4% or 5% appear on screen, and about 6% appear behind the camera, which is not right. So I'm very active, quite a lot of other individuals, to get more representation on screen. So I specialize in writing comedy drama and working with disabled talent. So, and that's something I started doing when I was making the training films. I was making training films to help care workers look after the vulnerable. So I would cast actors with learning disabilities or physical disabilities as part of my, and it's just like, it's just natural. It's just not a big deal, whereas people make it a big deal. And then last year, I wrote a comedy heist idea. I had this comedy idea about a team of disabled master criminals who get away with murder, not literally, because no one suspects them. And I wrote this heist, and it's a bit like Hustle meets Ocean's 11, but they're all disabled. And it got me on a BBC Writers Programme. So they had 800 script submissions and 10 places. And it's a very prestigious BBC writing programme, 18-month programme. And we're about probably three-quarters of the way through it. So the first half of the programme, we had master classes, so 2 or 3 master classes a month. So we would have master classes from Jack Thorne on character and structure. You know, we'd be talking to multi-BAFTA nominated writers and directors about character development and all that. And so all the experience I had working in TV and writing stuff without any training was all now going, oh yes, that's why I did it. Ah yes. And then halfway through, we're given a script editor, and we had to pitch 3 ideas, and they would then select one which we work and we write as a signature piece. And the piece I'm working on at the moment, because I'm like 3 months into that process now, I'll describe as Call the Midwife meets Patch Adams, set in a children's hospital.
Wow.
Which is based on my time working at Great Ormond Street Hospital Radio. I've already written the first draft, and 2 weeks ago, I was at a networking event at Sky, set up by this amazing group called the Deaf and Disabled People Working in Television Group, and they basically are the driving force in change. So they set up events between broadcasters and the disabled talent, and I spoke to about 6 or 7 different production companies, producers, and 2 of them said, we want to see the script when it's ready, Neil. You know, so that's where I'm at now. I don't have the commissions yet, but I have enough people interested in the style of writing that I do and what I'm producing to at least have those conversations. So the future is me writing amazing comedy drama that when people watch it, they get sucked in and drawn in, and then all of a sudden they're slapped around the face with something they didn't expect, and they go, oh, I didn't think that, and then I'm changing perceptions.
That's wonderful, because I loved what you said before about the idea you had for disabled mastermind criminal gang.
Yeah.
And I think that's just, it's so far outside the box. It wouldn't have
Yes.
occurred to me. I've never seen anything like it.
And you wouldn't be able to write it, Malcolm. No, I'm not saying that you're not a writer, but
Neil,
without that
saying
lived
that.
experience, you have to write from your lived experience
Exactly. And that's
to make it
why
authentic.
that's
Yeah.
why my book is something I'm really proud of, because I Slay Your Dragons with Compassion,
Yeah.
written from my lived experience of losing a child.
Yeah.
And so I was able to write about that with authority. What I'm hearing
Absolutely.
is that you've been able to write with authority on what it
Yeah.
is you that you
Now, one thing that I always am very careful with, if I'm writing a character with a particular condition, I will always sit with someone and talk with them and research and get their input, because I don't know what it's like to use a wheelchair. I know what it's like to be belittled for being different, and I know what it's like to fight and not be seen for who I am, but I don't know how it is to physically. Same with if a visually impaired character. I don't know what it's like to lose my eyesight. So I talk with people who do it, and I have some amazing conversations, and people with disabilities, they're funny. I was talking to a visually impaired comedian once, and I was asking her, what's the biggest struggle you have? And she said, you know what? People always come up and ask me, how do I know when my dog's done a poo? You know, it's like I wouldn't even consider that. And then from that, what grew, because this is how my mind works, is go. I wrote a sketch about a blind person with a guide dog walking down the road. The dog doesn't poo. A goody comes up and says, "Oh, let me help you. I'll clear that up for you." And then someone else says, "Oh no, you can't do that. You've got to let them do it themselves." And then it kind of builds and builds, and there's like about a dozen people standing around this shit that's on the floor, and she's walked off and got on the bus. You know, and it's like I would not have come up with that had I not had a conversation with. But it's like that's kind of how my mind works. So it's making it fun, but also making people think, "Oh, okay, all right, didn't think of it that way."
It reminds me of the Does He Take Sugar program. I don't know if you know that program that used to be on the radio, which is basically a disabled person is being wheeled around by his carer, and someone is making them a cup of tea and says to the carer, "Does he take sugar?" As though he doesn't exist. And I think what you're doing is you're drawing attention to the fact that some people who we wouldn't see what their struggle is or what their situation is, you're drawing attention to that, both in a
No,
humorous way. No,
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 no.
shoot,
Struggle. Where's that word struggle? What's that word struggle about, Malcolm?
go on.
That is your perceptions. You see, the thing is, and this is what's so wrong about the way people who do not have lived experience of disability, they always think it's so much harder. It's not. I'm bloody lucky. My stuff is so visible, I've had to work on it. I have no psychological issues because I've had to work on my stuff. Otherwise, it would have killed me. There are so many people walking around with stuff going on that's hidden that they never deal with, and it's eating them up. And they're struggling way more than I am. So I think you need to change that perception, and your viewers need to change that perception.
Well, in fact, by having this dialogue with you, I'm already
Yeah,
being challenged in my perception.
yeah.
The good thing, because it's something I don't think about normally.
No, I know, and that's what I'm trying to change. So this is why a group of master criminals getting away with stuff, and people think. I mean, the leader of the gang, she's a woman called Sam. I've written her as an ex-Paralympian swimmer. Her upper body strength is so strong, it means she can do stunts like Ethan Hunt can do, like being lowered down on pulleys and stuff like that. No problem at all. But nobody suspects that she can do it. And the guy Charlie, who's visually impaired, he can still crack the safe even when all the lights are off. You know, and it's those kind of things. And the thing about someone with a disability that I don't want to say makes them better, but when you have something that society has not set things up to make it easy for you. So there's the social model of disability that I have a condition, but it's the way society is built that disables me. So I'm sitting in a chair at the moment that is designed that is comfortable for me. I'm more comfortable leaning forward than leaning back. Most chairs, I look at your dining room chairs behind you, I would not be able to sit on those chairs comfortably. Okay?
Yeah.
That is the way society is built. Your stairs, if I was in a wheelchair, I would not be able to get upstairs. That is what disables lots of people. So people who have got conditions have to be way more creative, have to work way harder in order just to be on a level playing field. Therefore, they're smarter, sharper, they're problem solvers.
And
And again, most people look at them and think, oh, Paul, then do they need sugar?
yeah, yes, yeah.
Yeah,
So I think you are a fantastic voice for scenarios which most people don't think about,
yeah,
because you've
that's
got me
right.
thinking this morning about a number of different scenarios, and I will take this into my thinking as well.
Mm,
You've influenced me,
yeah. And
and I'm
this is what I want to do in my writing. I want to create great stories that draw in an audience and get them to fall in love with the character stuff, and then have something to the characters when the audience goes, "Oh my God, does that really happen? I've done that. Oh, I'll never do that again." It's that kind of thing because it's all fear, and everything is based on fear. And if you don't have experience of, or if you don't know, you fear. I mean, a lot of people are scared that they might say the wrong things, so they say nothing. or
I don't think that will ever be your problem, will it, Neil? So,
oh no, oh God no.
that's a joke. That's just it.
And the thing is, disability is the only minority you don't need to be born into. And I think there's that added fear. So it's like, really a friend of mine, I used to do musical theatre with, we used to sing and dance on the same stage, fell off a ladder, broke his back. He's been in a wheelchair now for 7 years, and it can happen like that. And I think there's a fear in that. It's almost like death. Death is like really scared and people don't want to talk about it. Disability is another one of those. What if it happens to me? Would I be able to cope? Therefore, I don't really want to consider it. Therefore, I don't want to connect with it. There's that going on as well.
But I hear that you're pretty fearless in how you go out to people.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. I don't, I'm lucky because I've had so many things said at me and said to me and teased me. I don't give a shit about what people think of me or say to me. And a lot of people do. People are really worried what other people think of them. I don't, because I've had so many people think so many things about me that are complete and utter bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't pay any heed. The people that I do listen to are my close friends, my family. Of course, I'll listen to the really close ones and the ones that I trust and know. But most people, I don't give a what
Yeah.
they think.
And do you also present on camera?
I can do. I've been asked to do a few little bits, but I'm not that's not an area that I'm pursuing. One of the interesting things, though, is I wrote a sitcom. In fact, I was at Skiros, which you know, and I dreamt this sitcom one night while I was there, and I wrote it all out. And it's kind of loosely based on me bringing up my kids. So it's about a single dad that brings up his kids who both tower over him. And I was chatting to the Beeb about it, who really liked it, and the commissioning editor looked at me and said, "Neil, do you act?" So he had in his mind me as that character, and I said, "Look, if you're going to screen test, I'll screen test as well, but I'm not going to put myself forward. You'll need to make the decision if you think I can do it or not." So yes, I would be willing, but you know, it's. I think the writing. I mean, at the moment I've been through a few health things the last few years, and I just really don't want the stress of pushing being. I don't have the energy or the drive that I used to have, and it's
Yeah.
a new avenue I don't want to pursue.
Well, I think yeah, as we get older, what I'm discovering as I get older is that I'm having to choose what I put my energy into.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
things I'm passionate about, I'm keeping going, like the podcasts that we're doing
Yeah,
here, like writing the book and like running my groups. But a lot
yeah,
of the other work has lessened down because I don't have the same energy I had.
yeah. I agree.
You said something about you wrote about your kids towering over you. How
Yeah,
was that? Have you had conversations with them about that? And has that been an issue in your family?
no,
No, great.
no,
Nor should it be as well. So that's
no,
fantastic.
no. That's why it's not an issue. You see,
Yeah.
that's it. Other people think things are issues. They're not.
Yes.
I mean, there were issues that my daughter got bullied at school because I have a disability. That's an issue. And can you imagine what that's like as a father to have your child
Horrible.
bullied because
Yeah.
of. And so I went into the school and talked about bullying and disability and put an end to it. And it created an amazing episode for one of the sitcom idea I wrote. And it's like, how would Leo, this character that I wrote, basically deal with it? And of course, he deals with it very dramatically. His daughter being bullied. How would you deal with it? Yeah. So.
But again, I can hear the strength you've got there that you wouldn't just go, oh God, like we're caught in this scenario. You'd step up and present something at the
Well,
school.
here's the thing. You have a choice in life. Everything that comes along, you can either be a victim to it or just say, well, that's how it is. Get on with it. And not most, but a lot of people play victim. And
Yeah.
when you play victim and when you say, oh, it's raining or my back hurts or you're giving your power away. And there's nothing, you can't change the situation. Whereas if you say, okay, I'm a bit achy today, it's not a particularly nice day. Yeah, but I can still make something of it. I can still get on it. Or I'll make a conscious decision. Right, there's the sofa, there's the telly. I'm going to have a quiet day. I'm going to recharge my batteries, and tomorrow I'll have a strong day. Rather than just be a victim to stuff. Because when you are, you don't get anywhere.
No, that's right. So we're coming towards the end of our podcast. I always ask the same question as we when we close, which is, what's the dragon you've had to slay in order to be who you are? And that's like, what obstacles have you had to overcome in order to be who you are?
Mm. I'm going to say there hasn't been any, and I'm going to qualify that. And there is one. Okay, so I started my self-development journey um, about the same time I started telly, so the very early 90s. And I remember going on this workshop, which was called Getting Lighter, and it was all about letting go of your problems. And the whole premise of it was you, all through the day, what is your problem? State your problem, let it go. What is your problem? State your problem, let it go. What is your problem? State your problem, let it go. Every time somebody asked me what my problem was, I said, I don't have any. I don't have any. And I was hearing people say, I've not got a car. I haven't got a mortgage. I haven't got a job. My girlfriend doesn't like me. All these kind of things. And every time someone said like that, I thought, well, that's not a problem. That's just something to sort out. That's not a problem. That's just something to sort out. By the end of the day, everybody was feeling lighter because they got off all this stuff off their chest. Me, I was feeling the complete opposite. Because the thing that struck me is my problem is the body that I've been given. And there's nothing I can do about that. And so that, in a way, is what my dragon is. The vessel that I have been blessed with, and I say blessed kind of slightly, but yeah, is does restrict me doing lots of things. And if I look at it, has made me the person I am. So I would not be where I am now had I been in a sleeker, smoother, taller model. So that is the dragon, but that's why I don't want to slay it, because actually it's also been my gift. So, and it is every day. It's a gift that keeps on giving. If you see me last week, and the last few weeks, I've had a health challenge, like I said, the last few years and stuff like that. But I'm still here. So yeah, it's this, but it's not a dragon that needs slaying. It's a dragon that needs nurturing.
That's nice. Yeah. In fact, because interestingly, my publisher wanted to call my book "Tame Your Dragons with Compassion." I thought that's too soft. I want something hard. But
Nurture
I'm
your
hearing that you're
dragon.
taming yours.
I'm
Nurture your.
not taming mine. I'm not taming mine. I'm using it. Use your dragon.
Use your dragon. That's great.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Neil. I really appreciate you coming on
that's
and
all right.
speaking so openly and honestly. And there's one thing I know about you is that whenever we speak, you're going to be upfront. There's no sense of you're
You
holding
don't get any
anything back.
BS with me.
No,
You get it how it is,
exactly.
and I never apologize for what I say. It's only you can apologize for the questions that you ask, because it was you that spurred on. So it's all your fault, Malcolm.
Of course it is. There we go. Fantastic. Well, thanks a lot, and
My pleasure.
we'll be in touch again.
Okay.